Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kiersten. I am a multi-dimensional person, and what that pretty much means is I am an expat, I am a freelance writer, I'm also a coach, and one of my main missions in life is to help people to expand their thinking and show up as who they are or who they want to be. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about my travel experiences, and I'm going to share an experience I have because I'm currently living in Spain about visiting some cave museums in Spain. So if you're kind of curious, if you're thinking about traveling to Spain, or you want to just know a little bit more about the country and the tourism, then stay tuned and I'm going to give you some insight on some things that you can explore if you ever decide to visit or are currently living in Spain. So one thing that I really like doing when I travel to places, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it via social media, but I think it's really an important thing to do as a tourist or a traveler, or however you want to define yourself, is to visit museums. Museums offer so much information and knowledge about the culture of the country that you're visiting. So if you have a favorite museum that you've been to while traveling, comment below. I'd love to know. And with that being said, what a unique aspect of Spain is that they have their terrain in general is just beautiful, and there's ocean and there's mountains and there's beaches and there's also caves. So cave museums, and I visited 2 so far, and I hope to visit more. And there's also different hostels and hotels that you can stay at where you can actually like sleep and stay the night in a cave. But I have visited cave museums in Granada, which is famous for the Alhambra, and I've also recently visited the city in Spain that's known for having cave homes as well as a cave museum, is Guadix, which I am probably mispronouncing that. Excuse my pronunciation. So I'm going to talk about my experience visiting these 2 cave museums. And so I'm going to mostly focus on my experience and what I learned from these experiences and these visits. So I might not be 100% factually correct about everything. I will try to, if I say something that is a fact, I will try to make sure that it is accurate. But this is more so me sharing my experiences, and I will link to more reliable sources in the description. But I just want to tell a story about my cave adventure, visiting the cave museums, and I want to share what I learned and what I took away from this experience, because I think that a lot of the times we focus so much on just going and doing things while we travel, and I think it's very important to take a moment to reflect upon and really understand what we're learning while we're traveling, what we're experiencing while we're traveling, and take that with us and share that message and that experience with other people. So the first cave museum that I visited was actually kind of by accident, and my mom last year, was it last year? Yeah, it was last year, in 2021, depending on when I upload this. It was 2021, and my mom actually recently came to visit me in Spain because I'm originally from California, so my mom took the very brave trip by herself to come visit me in Spain. And so we went because where I live about an hour away by bus from Granada. And so we were kind of walking around the beautiful streets of Granada. We had stopped to get some crepes that were made, and we were trying the different tapas. And so I have and this is a travel tip if you want to use it as that, the thing I love doing when I travel to a place is using Google Maps to kind of be my guide. So a lot of the times I'll kind of plan stuff when I do a trip, but I also kind of just like to open up Google Maps and kind of see what's there and go to whatever calls my attention. Comment below what is your, I guess, way of traveling? Do you like to plan out every little thing that you do, or do you like to be spontaneous? So when I opened up Google Maps, I found that there was a cave museum about 8 minutes walking, 8 or 10 so minutes walking. And I'm always curious about, I think caves are fascinating in itself. Because it's kind of one of those places that you don't really explore that much. It's not like a beach or a park that's something that's open. It's kind of something that you only get to explore during certain opportunities. So I was like, okay, great. Let's go check out this cave museum. My poor mom, when it said on Google Maps that it was about 8 minutes away, it failed to tell me that it was about 8 minutes walking up a hill. Probably more than 100 steps to get up to the top of the hill. And thankfully my mom is healthy. She probably was very frustrated halfway through the journey, but she did it, and her heart and her muscles probably thanked her later. But we climbed. It definitely did not take us about 8 minutes. It definitely took us a little bit longer than 8 minutes to get all the way to the top of the museum. I'll drop the name of the museum below in the description because I forgot to look it up before I started recording. And it was really interesting because what I really like about this museum is that it had information in both English and Spanish. So, it was great for my mom, who doesn't know Spanish, and it was great for me because I'm practicing and learning my Spanish to kind of have both. And they did a really nice job of replicating how the caves looked when people lived in them. So a really cool thing about Spain is that, again, don't quote me on this, but it's a point in time and still to this present day that the people in Spain used to live in caves, which is a brilliant idea because especially in the south, when it gets really hot during the summer, the caves kind of have like a steady temperature of, I think, between like 60 and 70 degrees. So it was a nice place to stay cool during the summer. And I just really love the aspect of having a cave as a home, because to me it's like one of the most environmentally friendly places to live, because you're not having to destroy nature to build a home. You're literally making a home within nature. So I thought that was really fascinating, and that was one of the things that I learned on my first trip to Granada, checking out the cave museums. So my second trip, I decided, it was actually on Thanksgiving, since I was unable to be with my family for that day, I was like, I'm gonna do a little solo trip. So I hopped on a bus, and it was about an hour, 15 hour and a half bus ride to Guadix, and such a beautiful town. And they have an area called Barrio de las Cuevas, or something like that. Pretty much it is like the neighborhood of cave homes. So within that neighborhood, it's really fascinating because not only are there people that actually live in caves to this very day, and there's also some people that have taken the cave homes and kind of renovated them and made them more of like a display or kind of like a museum. There's an actual cave museum. So I went and checked out, and it was really interesting because you got to see how people lived during that time, over 100 years ago. Before the time of electricity. The tour guide even showed us this little candle lantern thing that they would use for light. So it was really interesting because there was no electricity, and because caves, are kind of dark just because of how they're positioned, there are two main ways that light would enter the cave. It would, one, be through this door like the entrance door and the door that in the museum that I visited had two parts. It had a part that can open at the top and a part that can open at the bottom. You can obviously open both parts. So light would come in that way. And then the other way was through this like candlelight. And so it was really interesting, and I had asked the tour guide, so what was the life like? Because I think about my life and how most people spend, when they're not working or they're not going out, they do spend a great deal of time inside. And I was like, how does it work if like light only came in, during the daytime or by candlelight? I imagine like, they don't want to waste a lot of wax and burning of oil to have light. What was the lifestyle like? And she pretty much said that most of the day was spent outside, and you'd really, only come in to cook, to make a meal, to bathe yourself, and to sleep. And so that made me really reflect on lifestyles now, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, how have things changed? And simultaneously, I'm also reading a book called Do Nothing, which talks about how we're overworked and how we're living in a time of technological advancements. We have heaters, we have washer and dryers, we have dishwashers, we have irons, we have so much technology that, in a sense, was built to make our lives easier, but sometimes has made our life more complicated or made us a little bit more dependent on technology. So it was a reminder, going into these cave homes and seeing how people used to live made me realize, made me remember that life is happening outside, and to really appreciate the time that we have and to be outside. And I mean, I love staying home, and I know that, people that prefer their alone time, I prefer my alone time. It is really nice just to stay in the comfort of my own home. But it was a great reminder to make sure that I'm experiencing life and I'm not settling for a standard lifestyle of staying enclosed or staying in home. And it really made me think about how simple life was, and that even though I'm not saying like we should go back in time when there was no electricity and things like that, but was a reminder to remember that the things that we have in our life are meant to make our lives easier. And sometimes it's not the things that overcomplicate our lives, but it's how we use the things that make life complicated. So it was a beautiful experience getting to kind of step back into time and see a different way of life. When I went to the museum, there was this old Spanish man, and he kind of signaled me over, and he was like, come here. And I was like, okay. And as I walked over, he pointed up to like walk up this hill, and he was telling me that there was like a better view there, and I could see the whole entire city. And so I climbed up to the top of this hill, and I did indeed have a beautiful 360 view of the entire city. To appreciate life and to slow down when we can, and to remember that life is beautiful even in the simplest ways, and it's not the things that make life beautiful, but the experiences that we have that make life worthwhile. So I hope you enjoyed that little story of my cave museum adventures, and I hope that it inspires you to maybe reevaluate or rethink how you're living your life, and if you can, go outside and live it and experience life outside of the comfort of our homes. If you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now.